Let's Talk Merrimack. I'm your host for today, Jen McInnes. I've been in Merrimack for about 17 years, and this time of year we've got apple trees in full bloom and baby chicks in the garage waiting to get out into the coop, so I'm enjoying this year's spring. The goal of this show is to talk about things that concern Merrimack residents and to encourage you to get involved in the community. Today's show focuses on the New Hampshire State Senate campaign, and I'm joined by Shannon Chandley, Democratic candidate for the New Hampshire State Senate seat that represents Merrimack, Milford, Wilton, and Amherst. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you, Jen. I'm so happy to be here.
Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this state Senate seat?
Sure. So I don't know how far back you want to go, but I grew up, my father was a firefighter, and my mother was worked in school food service in a school cafeteria. And, I really think that much of what I do today is based on what I learned from them many, many years ago. They were really devoted to public service and serving in their communities. And I always felt that responsibility. I've served in many ways. I've been a volunteer for many organizations, with many organizations throughout the community. But some years ago, I got involved in electoral politics. I've served in the New Hampshire House and in the New Hampshire Senate. Greatest honor of my life has been to represent the people of these communities. I really am committed to working with people to face the challenges that we have in New Hampshire. We live here because we love it. What you just described is the perfect spring in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. I love being part of this community, and I've been here for 25 years, and it's a wonderful place. My husband and I have raised our 4 children here. We are committed to our community, and we know we love it, but we also know that there are occasionally problems to be solved. And being in the state legislature is the way that I can feel that I can currently best serve my community. That's what led me to make the decision to run, and I'm looking forward to doing so. And I'm looking forward to working with people across the aisle, across the spectrum, stakeholders everywhere, to meet the challenges facing our state.
Fantastic. A lot of focus in politics right now is around the cost of living. Everywhere you look, it feels like life is more expensive. Is there anything that can be done at the state level to help address some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We know right now everything's more expensive. Groceries, housing, childcare, healthcare. We are facing exorbitant prices across the spectrum, and some of this is due to federal policy. We know that there are tariffs and a war that have raised certain prices, but there are things we can do at the state level. For example, I think 2 good examples are childcare and housing. We know that people in New Hampshire recognize that housing is one of the top problems facing the state right now. It's not just a lack of affordable housing. It is a lack of housing in general. Whether you are a renter or looking to buy, finding a home right now is really difficult. And this isn't a brand new problem. We saw this coming. I have participated in a number of events and a number of different forums and meetings that for years that we were trying to address the problem, looking at different ways to approach creating more housing. We know our vacancy rates have been exceedingly low for at least 10 years, if not more. COVID did us no favors. That certainly exacerbated the problem, but it didn't create the problem. Mm-hmm. And here we are in 2026 without really good solutions in hand just yet. One program that was I think a very good program was the Housing Champions program that was implemented when I was last in the Senate. Housing Champions program was implemented. It was an incentive program, and it was funded to some extent for a couple of years. And I believe, somewhere in the mid-20s, 23, 26 communities have participated in Housing Champions. Unfortunately, that funding has been cut, and there are people who are currently looking to eliminate the program entirely. And in fact, we're hearing from constituents across the state. We know that housing is a top issue. So we need to make sure that we are focusing on it. The Housing Champions program is just one plan. There are other ways that we can work to encourage communities to create more housing. And I would say similarly with child care. I think we know that for many working families, child care is the second greatest expense they have. A family with 2 children under 5 currently pays almost $30,000 on average in child care expenses.
Yep, I've been there.
If we want to encourage young families to grow their lives, build their lives here in New Hampshire, we need to make sure that they have access to child care and that it is affordable. If their salaries, most of the young families who are coming have 2 working parents, and if there are 2 parents working and their salaries can't cover the cost of child care for their children, that's a challenge for us. And the state has made some effort to address this, and I think that's great, but I think that we need to recognize the priority that this issue must take. We cannot take a small step and think that's enough. We need to make sure that we are working with the young families and with businesses. I know there's been some effort to do private-public partnerships. I think that's a great way to go. The businesses, our entire economy is dependent on young families and young people being able to get to their jobs. We need to make sure that is happening, because it's not just that family that suffers if childcare isn't available. It is all of us. It's all of our community. It's our businesses, and it's our state economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just at a forum for STEM in southern New Hampshire, and they were predicting huge growth, but that's only if they can get folks to be able to work and live here in southern New Hampshire. So
that's great.
It relates to everything. Another issue that is top of mind is property taxes. And we've got a great presentation happening tomorrow about how state policy impacts property taxes. I wonder if you could talk a little bit to how those state decisions have changed our local property taxes.
Well, there are several factors that have contributed to a rise in property taxes. One of the things that has happened is that the state has failed to fulfill its obligation to the cities and towns, to the municipalities on certain levels. One area, of course, is in the area of education. We know that state funding for education in New Hampshire is among the very lowest in the country. Our state needs to fulfill its obligation. It needs to meet the standards that we expect for adequate education. We also know that there's been other kinds of cuts to revenue sharing programs. If money is collected in these cities and towns and from the people and the businesses in the cities and towns, it needs to go back to the cities and towns to offset their costs. But if we make cuts at the state level, if we make those cuts, it results in downshifting to the towns. And that downshifting causes your property taxes to rise. There are also different mandates that have been put in place. Unfunded mandates can create problems for cities and towns when there's an expectation that they do something and there is no state money to support that effort. So I think it's essential that anyone working in state government, in the state legislature, needs to be focused on helping our communities thrive.
Absolutely. It's something we talk about at almost every town meeting and state budget meeting or school budget meeting, et cetera. So Merrimack has had several top of mind things. We have the property taxes that have dominated the local conversation, But Merrimack made the spotlight this year in not a preferred way with the proposed ICE detention facility that was planned for here in Merrimack. What is your takeaway, and what would we expect out of Concord should this happen in another community in New Hampshire?
So essentially my takeaway, you might be surprised, but it created for me, what happened here in Merrimack leaves me feeling quite optimistic, because what we saw was sort of an imposition. This was going to happen. The federal government was going to place in Merrimack, New Hampshire, a warehouse for human beings. So this was going to be an ICE detention facility that would have affected the people of Merrimack as well as the surrounding communities in so many ways. Whether we should be housing and warehousing human beings is one question, and many people certainly objected to that. But I think there was also the more practical, and the people of Merrimack were asking themselves, well, what's that going to mean for my community? And not only were there going to be people warehoused in a facility never intended for that purpose, but we would have had the people of Merrimack would have borne the costs of the traffic issues, the water use, the public safety issues. And people came together. People of varying backgrounds for very different reasons. The people of Merrimack and their allies came together and said no. They stopped that building. That was certainly the power of the people. That was people coming together to work for to work united for this cause. And that leaves me with a great deal of hope, because I think that despite the fact that we hear that everyone is divided, that we're in a hyper-partisan time, that we are, people are polarized, I'm not going to say none of that is true. But what I do believe is that we can come together, that essentially we all want the same things. We all want to have a home. We want to have a place to live. We want to have good education for our children and for those around us. We want to have opportunity. That includes job opportunity, career opportunities, opportunities to further our education and our careers. And we want safe and healthy communities. That's what we all want. And I think we need to get back to focusing on those issues, working together to make sure that we can all live in that kind of place.
Well, I echo your optimism. It really was amazing to watch the whole community and the surrounding communities rally to a cause. And I wonder if you think, as a state senator, you would support, so this is just kind of a follow-up, you would support this idea of local control. It didn't make it through the House this session, but there was a bill that wanted to be, that folks wanted to propose to give some local control over such decisions.
Well, absolutely. Any decision that affects the people of a certain town or municipality needs to have the voice of the people from that town and community.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope to see that come through in the next session. During your time in the Senate, you helped to pass legislation on something we care deeply about here in Merrimack, and that's water quality and contamination from PFAS. What do you see as the next steps on this issue?
That's a great question, because we did such good work. And I have to say that when Representatives Murphy and Stack and Thomas and Rung were elected in 2018 from Merrimack, they were, this was one of their top issues. And I too was elected to the Senate in 2018. So together, we really, during that 2019-20 session, we did a lot of work together. And I would say that those folks, I don't know that Merrimack's voice would have been so powerful if they were not raising the issue of PFAS throughout the state and making sure that their fellow legislators in the state House of Representatives were aware of the issue and worked really, really hard to make sure that that was addressed. We did a number of things, including getting the state to lower the maximum contaminant level for PFAS in water. But there were other issues too. And one of the things we did then, and I think is going to be our next step, we're going to have to continue to do, is elevate that issue to the federal government. Every meeting that I went to, every single meeting that I went to, there were people making sure that our federal delegation knew the damage created by PFAS, knew that it was something that we needed to make sure that in the future we held polluters accountable for the contamination, and made sure that that we addressed it on a national level, because it's really important that we address it at the state level, but water travels, air travels.
Yes.
We need to make sure that across the country we are living, that there are safe standards in place and regulations to guide those. Unfortunately, we have seen under the current administration a rollback of some of the work that the federal government did do in the previous administration. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing certain regulations rescinded or discussion of rescinding them. We're seeing the requirement to the enforcement of clean water standards being put out to the next, I think 2031 is what I read. And we're also seeing, other some efforts to deregulate in the area of PFAS. And I think what we need to do is be full on speaking to our federal delegation and making sure that they're going to keep those in place.
Absolutely. It has to get beyond Concord, but I'm glad to know that Concord has taken such solid action. In national politics, switching gears here, there's a large focus on the gerrymandering wars, mm-hmm. And that's even more present right now with the latest court ruling. Mm-hmm. Many states are rewriting their congressional maps, even though it's not a redistricting year. Regardless of what's happening in other states, what can we do here in New Hampshire to make sure that New Hampshire's democracy is strong, that we have solid representation, and that the voters have a voice?
This is such an important issue. I think we took for granted, I think, to some extent, that our democracy works. It works. We know it isn't perfect, and there have been many, many attempts to help us do better work.
Yes.
But what has happened recently is so disheartening. And it is an issue near and dear to me. Since 2017, I believe, was the first time I was a co-sponsor on an independent redistricting bill. That has been, I think that is the answer for New Hampshire. We need an independent redistricting commission to draw our district lines. It does not make sense for legislators for whom there is a vested interest to be drawing the district lines. Mm-hmm. It makes so much more sense for an independent committee to draw the lines based on all of the information that we know. We would set that out. These are the things that we need to look for. These are the kinds of metrics that we should be looking at when drawing districts, and let the independent redistricting commission do the work. This has had bipartisan broad appeal in the New Hampshire legislature. It has passed. It was vetoed by the governor. I think that we need to, this in the past mm-hmm. sessions, I do think we need to keep up that work. I do think that it's essential that we move forward in having an independent redistricting commission so that we can know that our democracy is strong. It's essential.
Yeah, strong and representative, right? It is so easy for folks to get disheartened when the representation is not proportional to the votes that came out, right?
We tell people they need, the folks who elect them will be their voice in Concord or their voice in Washington. They need to believe that. They need to believe that their vote matters.
Absolutely, yes. And when we want that voter participation, I love the idea of an independent commission. I didn't realize that that had such broad support at the legislature. To take a light turn, I have a few rapid fire questions that I wanted to ask, get to know you a little bit better. So we'll start with one that is relevant to our ice cream eaters here in Merrimack. Hard serve or soft serve?
Oh, both.
Both. So ice cream, yes.
Ice cream, you know, New Englanders consume the most ice cream, and why not? We have got the best ice cream, and you can't say no to one or the other.
Oh, absolutely. We've got some great stands in town. Do you have a favorite sport?
Hockey.
Hockey, okay.
Yes.
Who do you support?
Oh, well, the Bruins.
Well, of course. I don't know what I was thinking.
No, so my whole family, we are all hockey fans. My 4 kids, my husband have all played hockey.
That's fantastic.
It's great fun for us to follow the Bruins.
Okay, great. Do you prefer ocean or lake?
Ocean.
Ocean.
I love the lakes are beautiful. I enjoy being on a lake, but most of my time when I go to the beach is to the ocean.
Very good. And cats or dogs?
Well, I have 2 dogs.
Okay.
And I will say one of the things you learn quickly when you canvass in New Hampshire is that almost everyone has dogs.
Yes.
Going from knocking on doors and there's always a dog to greet you.
Yes.
But the cats don't. They're not as likely to come greet you at the door. So cats and dogs. I love pets.
Yes. Yeah. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have 2. They're 2. Both of them are rescues.
Okay.
And
great.
They're mixed.
So they're mixes. Yeah, we have a mix too. He's got some hound in him somewhere, but not quite sure. Well, so switching back here, this has been a very short conversation. So what's the best way to connect with your campaign?
The best way is probably through our website.
Okay.
And the website is the quickest and easiest way. And if you reach out through the website, I will absolutely get back to you. Would love to be in touch with anyone interested in participating in the campaign. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, and that website is Shannon Chandley for NewHampshire.com. That's FOR for New Hampshire. And she is on socials at Shannon Chandley as well. Is there anything you'd like to leave viewers with as we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you so much. First, again, thank you for having me here today. And I'm looking at the next few weeks and months are going to be very exciting. One of the things, of course, we are celebrating our 250th anniversary of the founding of our nation.
Yes.
And that means there's going to be a lot of celebration. Certainly, 4th of July, we have great parades here in Merrimack, and there are other parades. Amherst has a terrific parade as well. Milford will have a Labor Day parade. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to celebrate the United States and celebrate New Hampshire. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to meeting people on the campaign trail. I'll be out and about and look forward to talking with people and listening to what folks have to say. So I wish you peace.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thanks.
Well, Merrimack, that's our show for today. We'd like to hear your ideas for show topics and your feedback on what you've been hearing. So reach out at talkmerrimack@gmail.com or follow us on socials at Talk Merrimack. You can reach out about, like I said, show ideas or let us know what you think. I look forward to our next conversation.